Hi everyone, welcome to Arte with Maestro William. Thank you for being here. Today we're going to be making special plushies. These plushies are one of my favorite projects. It's plushies that I use to protect me, to help me achieve my dreams, to give me superpowers, to protect others, as a reminder to do good things, right? To help people. But before we get to the plushie, please join me in saying our poem, In La Quech. You are my other me. If I do harm to you, I do harm to myself. If I love you and respect you, I love and respect myself. In La Quech. All right, artistas. So remember, we're going to be doing a plushie. As part of this plushie, you're going to need the following things. A piece of paper, a full sheet of paper if possible, a full sheet of fabric, and this is a felt piece, but you can use any fabric. Little pieces of fabric or scraps, right? This will be for our eyes and mouth if we need to, or if not, fiber filling, right? But if you don't have this, then the scraps can be used. Some scissors. Scissors that are for fabric would be ideal because they're a little bit sharper, but if not, you can use any scissors that you have. A pencil, a marker, and some embroidery thread or any type of thread that you have. All right. Oh, and the needle, of course, right? So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing our plushie, and let's go through the instructions and see what you think. The projects that we're going to be using today are felt or any type of fabric that you have available, a piece of paper, a needle, preferably with a size 10 or 9 eye, pencil, marker, some fabric scissors or any scissors that you have available, some thread, this particular is embroidery thread, some scraps of fabric, or some fiber fill. If you don't have fiber fill, you can also use the fabric scraps. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to fold my paper in half. One half, I'm going to be using the different shapes to make a body for the plushie. Remember, you can make it whatever ability you want. It doesn't have to have 2 hands and 2 legs. On the other hand, on the other sheet of paper, I'm going to be drawing the heart along with a dream for this particular plushie. This plushie is going to help me accomplish this dream. And I'm going to write it in both English and Spanish. Now what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start cutting my template. I'm going to cut carefully around the lines using some paper scissors. Now that I have my template, using the marker, I'm going to trace 2 parts to the template, a front and a back. This will make sure that my plushie fits exactly the same on both sides. Sometimes I write front and back on my paper so it can help me. If you can see, they fit exactly the same. Now using my fabric scissors, I will be cutting around. If you don't have fabric scissors, you can use paper scissors as well. It might just take you a little bit longer. I'm being very careful in cutting around my fabric. Now these two parts match exactly the same. I'm going to compare it with my template, paper template. Now I'm going to be using fabric scraps to cut the eyes for this, but you can also use buttons, or you can buy special eyes online or at your local fabric store or craft store. Now I've written used a pencil to draw my line, and I'm going to be using a back stitch to do the lines for my mouth. If you don't know how to do a back stitch or a running stitch, I suggest you visit the episode number 22, where we go over back stitch and running stitch. Now I'm going to close out my stitch, making sure it's cut, and now I'm going to start using a running stitch in order to make my eyes. Now if you notice, I ended up putting my needle on the fabric of the plushie so I wouldn't lose it. It's really important that you keep track of your needle so it doesn't poke you or anybody around you. Very carefully, I'm choosing a different color thread and sewing the eyes on. If you notice, I'm only sewing on the front of my plushie, leaving the back of the plushie on the side. I want to make sure that I don't sew on both pieces right now. I've prepared my stitch again for the second eye, and I'm slowly starting to stitch it again. It's really great if you can spend some time practicing your sewing, your stitching before you do the plushie. It's a little bit less frustrating just because you get a little bit more practice. I'm closing out my stitch again, and I'm ready to start putting my plushie together. I'm going to check what kind of thread I'm going to be using. When I'm using my thread, I like to make sure that it's the length about my arm. When I'm putting it together, if you notice, I'm actually starting on the front side, and I'm making sure that my knot is actually inside of the plushie. This will make sure that no one can see my knots, and also that it doesn't come off by accident later on. Now I'm going to be using a running stitch to make sure that my plushie is closed down. Because I'm using a running stitch, it's really important that I make my stitches small. The smaller my stitch, the stronger my plushie is going to be. If I make my stitches too big or too far apart, my stitch is going to be a little weak, and when I put my filling in, the filling is going to come out. This is really important. that my stitching is done, I'm going to leave a tiny space, or not that little, maybe about 2 to 3 inches, where I can start filling in my plushie. In this case, I'm using fiber fill. If you don't have fiber fill, you can also use any scraps of fabric that you have around. I would recommend cutting them smaller parts and trying to stuff them in. You can stuff in as much fiber as you want. This will depend on your preference as to how soft or how fill you want it to look. Now that the filling is done, I'm going to start cutting out my heart with my paper scissors. Now, this heart is a specific wish that I want for a dream to come true. And this is really important depending on what you want your plushie to be for. Now, this is for my dream. I'm going to fold it up into a little square and put it inside my plushie. This makes every plushie unique to you or to the person who you're giving this to, who you're making this for. Whatever their dreams, whatever their fears may be that you're protecting them from. In this case, this is for my dream to inspire children of all ages to use art. Now I'm closing out my stitch, making sure that I'm putting the stitch all around so it's nice and strong so it doesn't come out. I cut it out, I flatten it a little bit, and there you go, it's done. I'm comparing it now to my original template. What do you think of this plushie? All right, artista, so now that you know how to do a plushie, you can make different plushies using different shapes, right? Think about their ability too, right? They don't always have to have 2 arms or 2 legs. You can make them differently able-bodied, right? And think about the fact that you are making a plushie for yourself, for someone that you love, for a stranger, and think about what kind of plushie you would like to make, right? What's his name? Where does it come from? Once you stick the heart in there, right, inside, and you write down what fear, what dreams you want to protect it from, what are some of the dreams that you wish that it could protect you from? What are some of the dreams that you wish that you could achieve, right? What would you want it to inspire you to do, right? These are all the different things that you can do with little plushies. Now, there's a couple of other plushies that I want to show you. These are plushies that we created with some students at the Pochcali Elementary with Maestra Liz Pagan. She's a science teacher, and we were studying bacteria, viruses, and cells. And these are some of the plushies that some of the students made. If you can see, we ended up buying special eyes online. This is another little plushie that we ended up making, and this was a little bit more complicated, but the student was able to do it. And then this is the last one that I can show you here. We ended up using a lot of beads around it. And then this one in particular, we ended up doing as part of a project where we were doing comics, right? And this was our little sidekick. So you can see that you can make plushies for very, very different ways, different reasons. So I invite you to make your own plushie. I want you to try and make it as simple or as complicated as your heart desires. And please share the project that you've done, and make a comment. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing all the amazing work that you end up creating. All right. Until next time, remember, all power to all people.